Just a reminder today that at the end of the day, your project, the CAD framing plan on 11 by 17 will be due. That's by midnight tonight. So this second lesson that I have here, again, is another research lesson. It's to help you start on the next series of projects. So if you want to complete your CAD drawing first, obviously do that, submit it, and then once you've done that, you can start working towards your pergola as well as the kitchen layout project. So here I have my proposed kitchen layout. It's very basic. There's not much to it at this point. And so what I want to do is understand what kind of kitchen could I put on top of a deck. There are basically two different types of kitchens. One you place on the deck because it's lightweight, and another one you actually make an opening just like this fixed planter opening, and then you build the base of this up with using concrete block sitting on a footing, and then you can actually do a solid counter out of stone. And I've got a number of examples I'd like to go through with you so you can see just that. So here's an example of a stone kitchen counter, which is typical on a lot of applications. This deck is actually open right along here, and again, I'm going to use this highlighter just to show you. So there is no deck framing at all. It's actually built up all along there with concrete block, and then the actual stone that's here is placed right on top of the blocks. So these are solid 4.5 to 6 inch wide stones that are placed on to provide the support, and then there's an opening made to slide in the barbecue, and you'd have to know all the dimensions for that. And once the concrete block or the stone blocks are in, the visual effect of it is on, then a countertop. In this case, it looks like some sort of granite material. It could be a Corian or something of that, which is a man-made stone product, but it has a little lip overhang. I don't recommend we use this technique for our deck. It's very heavy, it's very chunky, plus it sort of negates the whole idea of being able to block properly underneath the decking to provide that. But we can still have this look, but what we're going to be using is what's referred to as a stone veneer. It's very thin, only about an inch, inch and a quarter thick, and it gets applied to a metal frame. So the next image here, oh, this is really skewed. I apologize for that. The next image here is of a steel framed deck. I'm not too sure why it has gone the way it has. And it may be just my computer video card is no longer keeping up with the lesson. I'm going to go to the next image just so you can see this a bit better. So here is a stone frame, or this is a steel frame type of kitchen counter, and the steel frame is very lightweight, and it gets secured and attached right to the deck. And you'll know all the opening sizes with the pieces that you're going to be inserting. Now this has to be residential grade because it has a certain weight. You can't use a commercial kitchen on a residential deck. It's way too heavy. It's not designed for that. So this assembly is designed specifically to be carried on this type of weight. And the steel framing is very easy to work with. It just needs 10 snips, and it's screwed in, and they're sort of self-tapping screws that you'd use to make the different openings that are required for the different panels. This is an actual wood framed type of veneer, type of cabinetry, which then has a stone countertop on it. Now typically we try to avoid this type of wood veneer because it's susceptible to the elements. Unless they're covering this or they're doing something else to protect this type of veneer, it may fail over the years. It looks beautiful, absolutely fabulous, but it has a high maintenance level to it because it's susceptible to warping and water or moisture absorption. This is really not typical of what we install in an outdoor type of application. I could see this kitchen counter inside of an enclosed space that you can then close the walls off, especially during the winter months or during rain or anything like that. But this type of application, it looks beautiful, but it's really risky to work with. This is more typical. Again, I'm sorry for the poor image quality. I've got a better shot here. This is more typical of an outdoor installation. You'll notice there's very little wood exposed, and it's simply designed to hide the framing that's used to support all these elements in place. And sometimes they use a composite material that's available. You can buy composite materials from your local hardware store that then just get screwed or glued in place, or screwed from behind in the steel framing, and it makes a very nice, neat finish. So most of what you see here is the actual different appliances. The barbecue, the propane tanks are stored underneath. It looks like they've got a dishwasher here, some warming trays to keep, obviously food warm. They've also got a flatbed, some sort of cooking surface, and a faucet and sink application. But this is built right on top of the deck, and it's very, very lightweight. This is an example of a stone finish, but look what they've done. Actually, it is not touching the deck. It's hanging over it ever so slightly, and they may have used an angle iron or something like that to support the weight, so it's actually not sitting on the deck. But all of it is basically built on the ground, so it would have a solid concrete pad and be built up from the pad, and then you have, this looks like some sort of stone finished countertop at the top, on top of it, and it looks very, very nice. And here again, here's a side burner. There's your big barbecue with the drawers that are designed primarily to support the propane. It's got an electrical outlet here for a rotisserie. This looks like a beer tap, so obviously we know where their priorities lie. And here's a dishwasher drawer, and then this is probably a fridge of sorts. Whether it be to keep the keg cold, and maybe also be available for wine. So we're looking for something small like this for our particular deck project. Notice all these projects, they have this framed detail on the outer edge. Why? Because if you can afford a kitchen counter, you want a quality deck, and this is starting to show that quality of deck. Now I can tell right away by looking at this that this deck is actually a composite material. Notice how there's no screw holes or anything like that in the decking. And a composite, even though it is a plastic material, it still needs the same wood framing that we've been designing post and beam. And here is the type of pergola that actually it's more like a gazebo. It's completely enclosed, solid wood or MDF, medium density fiberboard paneling, and then a couple of countertop levels here, one for serving, one for eating on. But this one, notice how it's fully enclosed by the roof line inside, and therefore it is completely protected from the elements. And that's why I wanted to make the comparison. But because it's wood, it's lightweight, and it can sit right on top of the deck. Once again, there's a transition strip just to show the different separations of spaces. And then here, this is sort of a hybrid. They've got most of this built on the outer edge. Not too sure why. Part of it is sitting on the edge of the deck, but most of it is sitting outside the deck. But this is a type of paneling you can have. It's all right. I mean, you can do that. They've also attempted to do a separation of space inside or through the deck flooring materials. This is some sort of marble type of finished right around the surface, so it does have some weight to it. But again, these are traditional items that you can find for your kitchen plan. So my kitchen plan is very simple in here. It's an L shape. I'm going to be using the steel framing. I'm going to be using the wood decking materials to outline the edges of the kitchen area, and then the infill panels will support the rest of it. At this point, I'm not showing how I actually do the framing inside of it, but essentially what we would do is block all of these elements to the width of the counter to provide additional support to all the wood framing. However, in my case, my beam, I've got two major beams that sit right underneath the cabinetry, so I don't need additional blocking. It's pretty well supported, and again, I've been doing this for a long time, so these are some of the things I anticipate when I'm designing, and I already know that that beam is going to be more than enough support for the kitchen cabinetry I have above. So just to recap, your project's due, end of the day. 11 by 17 PDFs of the actual detailed CAD framing plan. Get as much blocking as you can in here, just as I've shown here, of all the different elements. Estimate, guesstimate where your posts are going to be for your pergola. And again, these are all things that will change over time, so don't worry about exactly where they are for now. Simply place them. I've shown additional framing for the pergola. I've shown additional framing for the handrail that I have on the side, as well as the additional framing for the screening that I have on the side. Show the fixed planters as opening. And these openings, like this one, is an opening that then goes off the deck, so it only needs a couple of posts to support the wall feature. Whereas this opening is in the middle of the deck, I need beams on either side to make sure I support all the wood framing around it. Don't forget to double up on the framing or provide perpendicular framing for anywhere where the deck boards have that edge treatment. It all needs to be supported. And basically, that's all you need to do. And that concludes this first half of the semester. Once you've handed this in, start reviewing and selecting all the different designs you have for your pergola and your kitchen cabinetry.